Welcome to the Women in Fishing Podcast. I'm Chris Woodward. The Women in Fishing Podcast is sponsored by AkzoNobel Yacht Coatings, makers of Interlux and all grip products for boats. So, one of the increasingly important conservation movements in the marine world today involves reducing our dependence upon single-use plastics. For today's podcast, I'm talking with women from two different companies that are leading this charge. Lia Colabello works on sustainability for Costa, where she manages the brand's Kick Plastic campaign, which seeks to reduce the amount of single-use plastic waste in our waterways. Lia started her own women-led company, Planet Purpose Solutions, to help a wide range of organizations with their sustainability initiatives. Deanna Burgess is a marine marketing specialist with Suzuki Marine. Suzuki started its Clean Ocean project in 2020, but it began conducting worldwide trash and plastics cleanups through its dealer network in 2010. The company also has taken steps to reduce its own plastic packaging, and its engineers devised a microplastic collecting device that is factory mounted to many of Suzuki's outboards. The device collects microplastics as the engine runs. Microplastics represent a major issue for the world's oceans. Welcome to the podcast, Lia and Deanna.
Hi, thank you.
So great to hang out with you.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize that was going to rhyme. Lia and Deanna. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, Lia, let's start out by why don't you describe to our listeners why and when Kick Plastics started? What were the alarming statistics that sort of created this need?
Thank you again for having me on your program, because it's such a pleasure to share about what we can all do around marine plastic pollution. And having that opportunity through the lens of Costa's Kick Plastic program is absolutely wonderful. So many thank yous. So Costa launched the Kick Plastic initiative in 2015 after seeing increasing amounts of marine plastic pollution in the waters. Plastic waste was everywhere. Their travels led them. There was no avoiding it. And so the team started to look into what could Costa do as an organization to tackle marine plastic pollution, because the ethos around the brand is to protect the watery world. So when Costa starts to look into taking a stance on a conservation issue, they partner with nonprofit organizations that are experts in that field. And in this case, it was the Five Gyres Institute. And they're an organization that had started out trying to quantify the amount of marine plastic pollution by sailing from continent to continent. Like 15 years ago, they started doing all this research and raise awareness about it. And so they ended up providing great guidance with the Costa team, and that's where my path first crossed with Costa. I was on the global partnership side with the Five Gyres Institute, and it's a nonprofit based out of California, but it has these global implications. They work with global organizations, and I was traveling all around the world on behalf of the Five Gyres Institute when Costa came knocking on my door saying, "We're really concerned. What can we do as a brand?" And so one of the things that we did while I was with the Five Gyres Institute is help Costa understand the amount of single-use plastic they were generating and start to take steps to reduce it within its office operations and events. When that was around 9 years ago, when Costa really first started to tackle this issue. And the research is always changing. And back then it was brand new research saying around 8 million metric tons of plastic is flowing into the ocean each year. And, they were saying by 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean by weight than fish, like really alarming things. A lot of marine mammals, unfortunately, ingest marine plastic pollution because it's, suspended in the ocean. When plastic is out in the ocean, wave action, photodegradation happens, and the plastic just becomes smaller and smaller into microplastics as well as even nanoplastics, right? And so it's everywhere. It's suspended throughout the water column. It's washing up on beaches. It's in our rivers, lakes, and streams. It's in our marshes. And research at the time is, and it's still true today, but they were just discovering how widespread it was. Even the tiniest plankton were ingesting microplastics. So then it was prevalent throughout the food chain, right? So, whales are washing ashore with tons of plastic in their stomach. To give you some updated data, though, on research, there's now data that it's impacting human health. So it's in our drinking water, plastics in our drinking water, seafood, and table salt. And research just this month said that it's not just the ocean that's transporting microplastics, it's in the air. And it's coming up out of actually the ocean through the evaporation process and traveling vast distances. And it rains down and it contaminates basically everything that we are growing to eat. So there's just no escaping it. The research is just now pouring out where it was just, there was nothing really out there 10 years ago. But estimates that annual microplastics consumption by humans range from like 40 to 50,000 particles, depending on your age. So that's just ingestion. But when you're inhaling plastic particles, I mean, we have between 75 to 120,000 pieces of plastic that we're somehow inhaling or ingesting into our bodies, which then leads to, I know this news is not good, and I'm sorry to be the downer here, but microplastics have been found in human hearts. It's in the bloodstream, lungs, placenta, and it's causing damage to cells, including cell death, allergic response, and damage to cell walls.
And the plastics that are getting into the oceans and becoming microplastics, where are they coming from primarily? How is all that getting into the ocean?
Well, single-use plastics is a real challenge globally. So think of food serviceware. I mean, how many times are we just walking down the street and we see a styrofoam cup, right, from a fast food restaurant, or a straw or fork or a plastic bag? Every time it rains, water will ultimately wash it into the watershed. It'll just wash into the watershed and then flow out into the oceans. In our country here in the United States, we're lucky because for the most part, we have really good waste collection systems, right? We have the garbage truck that's coming down the street every week. And if we're lucky, we have recycling trucks that do that too. But there's many parts of the world where they have the same consumption aspects that we do, right? We're all using single-use plastics every day in everything we do, but they don't have that garbage truck coming down the street. So they have dumps that spring up in remote places, or some people just kind of toss it out the window and it'll just, again, wash into the watershed and out into the ocean. So essentially there's a product on the market that doesn't have a real end of life solution. And so that is what these bigger global conversations that are happening are about. How do we stem this tide that is caused by consumption of a product that there is no away for?
Well, Deanna, Suzuki is involved on a global level as well, obviously, because the company is worldwide. Tell us a little bit about why Suzuki started its Clean Ocean project and what were the issues and problems that Suzuki is hoping to address.
We have the Clean Ocean project that we launched back in 2020, which stemmed back from Suzuki's original Clean Up the World campaign back in 2010. Giving back to the environment has always been important to Suzuki, and we've been active in 26 countries around the world. We clean up pollution, we clean up the beaches, we do beautify the parks and restore habitats when possible. This commitment provided a lead into this Clean Ocean project to focus on our efforts in cleaning up the microplastics in the oceans and in the waterways, both in terms of removing the plastic pollution in the waters, as well as just reducing the single-use plastics in our product packaging and shipping and stuff like that.
Right.
Anything to contribute to the marine ecosystem.
Lia, what are some of the main projects and initiatives that Costa has promoted through Quick Plastic?
What started as this inquiry of how can we do better as an organization, and some real measurable progress in reducing the single-use impacts within the office and operations, and especially at events as well, right? Because it's forward-facing. We had done an audit of the amount of single-use plastic we were using, and then took steps to try to find innovative solutions to sort of replace like the purpose had needed to be matched, right? And that wasn't easy, right? So when you think about plastic poly bags that protect apparel from their the shipping processes and the warehousing processes, right?
Right.
We have now found a type of FSC certified paper packaging that not all yet, but much of our apparel can be shipped out in and survive that manufacturing process. That is, you really need to have a durable packaging solution for that. So those are some examples. We started to branch out and work with our industry partners, like Yeti, for example. And when we were branching out, we realized that Costa has this amazing community of fishing ambassadors, right? And lodges and outfitters and captains and guides. And what we ended up doing was starting a program inspired in conjunction with them to stop the amount of single-use plastic water bottles that were going out on trips, because those are so easy once, they've been drunk, to just kind of flit away into the water with the next breeze. And so with partners like Yeti and Clean Canteen, we did a reusable water bottle program. With that, we have an annual estimate because we survey our partners, and they say that about combined, about 500,000 single-use plastic water bottles are avoided annually because of the Kick Plastic Guide and Outfitter program. We also work with optical dealers all across the country to recycle the demo lenses. So when you buy a pair of eyeglasses, they come with just a clear plastic polycarbonate lens that then gets knocked out, and then your prescription gets replaced with it. Well, there was no real end-of-life solution for those except the trash, unfortunately. But we had a partner that we started working with, a recycling partner, that was able to actually take those lenses and turn it into, I have a new update on all the things that they can do with it, because it changes every year depending on what the recycling market is asking for. But historically, they've been turned into plastic lumber, play sets, buckets, containers, dive masks, eye protection, like for construction purposes, like when you've got a saw, frisbee, stadium seats, carpets, traffic cones, right? So we're finding a new life for these demo lenses that our optical partners are turning into our recycling partner, who then process it and then repurposes them with other companies. So since 2019, that program has recycled over 18 tons of polycarbonate lenses.
Cool. Deanna, talk to me a little bit about Suzuki's main projects, some of the cleanups, and describe that a microplastic collection device. That's fascinating to me.
It's very fascinating. When we started the Clean Ocean Project, we also announced our Suzuki microplastic collecting device, because the microplastic pollution is very hard to collect because it's so small, so tiny, 5 millimeters or smaller. Suzuki came out with an innovative solution to remove the plastics from the oceans and waterways with this development of a filter system, which is known as the microplastic collecting device. The filter system is in the same spot in our engine, the cooling device, the cooling line that sucks in the water to cool the engine.
Yeah.
And it is sucking up the microplastic debris into a little filter that you can take it out, empty it, and then replace it and keep using it. It's a standard equipment on all of our 115 and 140 horsepower engines worldwide.
Yeah.
Any of our competitors, nobody has this filter system in their engines.
Well, and it's my understanding that that's totally something that the boater, the engine owner, can do himself or herself.
Yes.
Is pull that cowling off, take that device out, dump it, put it back in.
And
so
put
it's
it right
not
back.
something that has to happen, when you do your service on your outboard. So it's something that the boaters themselves can do.
Right.
Does Suzuki foresee being able to put this in more models, more outboards?
They're looking into that and testing on the other models.
Okay.
And and when it sucks in, it there's also an overflow section in the the unit that won't mess up the engine in any way. It won't damage the engine. So
Yeah. So and it doesn't change performance and all, none of that.
No.
There's no difference whatsoever.
None at
So,
all.
yeah, I mean, it's interesting that something that you developed that was so simple in terms of this, complicated outboard is available, and people could, pretty much anybody could do it. I would think the other manufacturers, hopefully, that maybe they'll
start doing something like that.
Jump in on that. And yeah, like Lia was saying, there's millions and millions of pounds of this out there. And yeah, so it's a drop in the bucket. But if everybody did it, it's like if everybody stopped throwing something out their window,
right,
we'd be doing a lot better. So I mean, it does have to start on a grassroots level, and I think that part of the message that we want to get out to our listeners is it starts with you. It really does. So what are some of the other things that Suzuki is doing, Deanna? So tell me a little bit about the cleanups and such from the dealerships.
We have a company-wide global drive to reduce the use of the plastics and plastic waste with the manufacturing and the packaging and the shipping, and using renewable, recyclable materials. Like we'll use bamboo straps on our pallets, and we have reusable pallets that we continue to use. All our parts come in cardboard recyclable containers, and we do the cleanup events across the country. Every boat show that we go to, the corporate goes to, we set up a cleanup event in that area. And we also partner with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the local football team here, and we do an annual cleanup with them and keep Tampa Bay beautiful. We work with them on and their affiliates out in the world, out in the country. We also have anglers that we sponsor, and that's part of our agreement with them, is to help have, they hold up cleanup events around their area as well. We also promote the recycling at events. We sponsor recycle bins at all of our boat shows that we attend, and at the Tampa Stadium with the Buccaneers and any events that they have. So we have recycle bins located throughout the whole stadium. We also provide alternatives to the plastic bottles, and we use we're sponsoring these cartons, like milk cartons, but they're water cartons, so they're recyclable and not using the plastic.
Gotcha. Well, Lia, I also know, Costa's doing a lot with, say, bioresin frames and those types of things too. I assume that's all part of the Kick Plastic promotion.
Yes, thank you so much for pointing that out. So Costa has always explored new frame technologies, and it crossed our path about 10 years ago. There is a type of material that's made from the castor bean plant that's grown in arid parts of the world. And so it's not a crop that's competing for food resources. And so we use the oil from the castor bean plant, and we mix it up with a proprietary petroleum and bioresin mix. That's what we call it. So it's bio-based, but it's not all, made from the castor bean plant completely, because the technologies just aren't there yet. Gotcha. And so that started a journey into looking at how could we look at new frame materials to meet some of these values as a company that we have. And we ended up finding a wonderful partnership with a group of people out in California called Burgess. And they collect fishing nets that are damaged and otherwise might be discarded in the ocean from fishing villages all around South America. And so with our partnership, we're helping to avoid about a ton of nets from, there's no garbage truck, again, that comes around to these remote fishing villages around South America to collect nets that have gone beyond their useful life. But Burrell is coming around, taking those nets, processing them, putting them into pellets that look like this. And by the way, and here's sort of what you're dealing with these You can see nets are is the most harmful form of plastic pollution, because it continues to catch long after it's been discarded. So then they create these little pellets and then them together into our untangled frame. of sunglasses. And so that is this idea that Costa is exploring around product circularity, right? So all the materials, when we designed this product, how can we design out waste, right? So even the little icon here is made out of recycled aluminum. These are some ways that we're looking at our product. We're incorporating more recycled materials into our apparel. And then I also want to touch, as Deanna was talking about events, how important it is to get out there with the public and provide opportunities for them to learn about how they can be engaged and actually take action around marine plastic pollution. And I think a pillar event for us is the Miami International Boat Show, where we've worked with them we install water stations and sell reusable water bottles, and they've really cut down on the amount of single-use plastic water bottles that are out there. And I know this is really symbolic, but it does add up to a lot of waste that is being avoided by these practices that Deanna and I myself are talking about. It's all a work in progress. What's really wonderful about Costa is the entire team is thinking, like, it's built into, all right, when we're designing a product, when we're creating an event, how are we avoiding waste? How are we incorporating education around marine plastic pollution to further the Kick Plastic campaign? We have a long way to go, but you can't not try, right? We all have to do something here.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't just throw up your hands and say, it's over.
No.
That's never mind. Because we do have to try to keep this planet going at least for a while longer, hopefully well past our great grandchildren's eras and all of that. But are there any other successes that you'd like to talk about? Lia, I know you mentioned the amount of waste that y'all were able to reduce early on through the project. Are there any other successes from Kick Plastic that you'd like to enumerate?
I want to point out that without Costa's extended community, of which you are all a part of, right? We couldn't have amplified this program and scaled it like we have, right? So even with Suzuki, right, it was really fun when they were developing this engine and we were talking with them about it and helped them launch it in 2020. Through that, it was a fun conversation to get that out into the market. It's going to take all of us to Kick Plastic. We have such wonderful ambassadors that have taken the Kick Plastic campaign and amplified it, like Carter Andrews with his Pick Up 3, right? Take 3 from the sea type of thing. And Hillary Hutchison that is going even further, talking around plastics, especially in the inland rivers and waterways that, she is a guide on the bad news around the environmental degradation of our planet people can tune out, but we can't, right? And we have to do everything that we can that's within our power to stop. So avoiding the single-use plastics, and it just sounds, bring your reusable bottle with you everywhere, bring those grocery bags with you everywhere. While these are small actions relative, they help signal that you care. I teach a class at the College of Charleston for social entrepreneurs, and we just talk about how important it is for the next generation to help us find solutions. So when you are all educated, right, like, all these terrible stats that we started the podcast with, when everyone understands what's on the line, literally our lives, as we just learned, that means that, like, students are graduating to try to tackle these issues in new fields, do new research, create new innovative projects. So this conversation needs to keep happening so that it inspires current and future leaders to be champions of change. We need to move back into a society that reuses things instead of just relying solely on the single-use functionalities that we've become so accustomed to. It's hard. This is not easy, but it can be done if enough of us have that kind of commitment.
Absolutely. Deanna, what about successes from the Clean Ocean Project? Do you have any stats or any enumeration there?
We've eliminated about 28 tons of plastic waste.
Wow.
So, and like Lia said, it's just the key goal is to educate and inform and inspire others to follow our actions and provide, just every little bit that everybody contributes makes a mass difference. And it's going to take a lot of time, but just starting.
Right. Right. It's starting. And as Lia was talking about, the next generation of people who are studying this problem in the school systems and in the universities, hopefully we'll be able to come up with some more solutions, and, that it just builds on itself.
Creating habits, reusing. And of course it's convenience. The plastic's convenience for people,
Sure.
but, we just have to train them, or everybody just needs to learn to reuse.
What about any future projects upcoming in the next year that you could talk about with the Clean Ocean Project? Anything new?
Nothing's new, just they're testing, to do, to provide this in the other engines, and just continuing to outgrow or continuing to outreach and grow with the community events, and just, partnering with more companies together to work together, because it's going to take a group. You can't do it by yourself.
Right. Lia, what's ahead for Kick Plastic?
As we sort of mentioned, it's all about inspiring the current and future generations, right? About how they can take action. So as the brand is growing nationally and globally, it's taking that ethos that we have to protect the watery world and translating it internally into our brand actions, our operations and events, and inspiring external actions, whether through brand partners, like we talked about earlier, or just the general public. Just encouraging everybody to think about how can we make different choices, right? Redesign products internally, re-examine, when we're going to an event, like what are we bringing with us and what are we leaving behind? And it's quite very minimally for Costa now this time. For every new person that comes on board the Costa team, every single one of them is so excited about Costa's ethos to protect the watery world, and through the Kick Plastic and program and One Coast, where we help with, hurricane recovery or recovery from disasters. They're taking the drumbeat that has been built by generations of Costa leaders, right? And they're carrying it with them and expanding upon it. So I just feel so lucky to work with the Costa team and the passion that everybody has within the entire Costa community to just do better. We put a report out about these kinds of projects that we're working on, and we'll be releasing that later this year. It's our second edition of our Protect report. So you'll be able to learn a lot more about all our other activities we're doing to protect the watery world within our own brand power, as well as through our community partners and conservation partners.
Great. We'll look forward to seeing that. Well, do either of you have any other topics that you'd like to discuss that we haven't covered so far?
Beach cleanups, river cleanups, right? Lake cleanups, they really matter, because once it's in the water, it takes really robust technology like what Suzuki has, right, to try to get it out. And it's hard. So if you can just pick it up, avoid it if possible. The issue of marine plastic pollution affects each one of us to our core. And we also have to think about the generations that don't have a voice in this issue because they haven't yet been born, right? So like our actions today really impact people that don't have a voice, that will be living with the repercussions of our decisions today. So it's going to take all of us to make better decisions as individuals and as businesses, and really make an effort to keep plastic out of the environment.
Yeah, indeed. And just, for anglers who have boats in particular, stop and pick up things. If you see a balloon floating on the water, or if you see a plastic cup, or if you see, something that doesn't belong there, stop and pick it up. I know it takes you off plane and out of your, you have to stop and think about, okay, I'm going to miss 5 minutes of fishing, but I'm going to do this. So, because it is important, like you said. I mean, it's in there, it's in here, it's in our bodies, it's in our hearts, it's in our, our digestive tract. It's crazy. There's so much of it. So, anyway, well, thank y'all for joining me, and I much appreciate your messages and the efforts that those companies are making to make a difference here and to encourage others to do the same thing. So thank you again. I appreciate you. Hope to see you both on the water sometime.